Welcome to Insomnia Insight. No, I botched that one. Sorry. Welcome to Open Class 94. It's Open Class 94. Hope you're doing really, really well. We are going to take a look at questions that came in from 4 people today. And I hope this will bring a lot of value to you. And if you're one of the people who sent a message, then to you as well, of course. Now, before we start, as always, nothing here is medical advice, just general thoughts and general comments that I think applies to really everyone that is in the same situation as the person who wrote a message to us. So with that said, let's jump right in. Let's jump right in and take a look at these 4 messages. So the first one was from Sierra, who's actually someone who was my client in BedTyme and has done well, really, really well, and has a little bit of a speed bump here. So let's go over this. Hi, Coach Daniel. I promised my fiance I wouldn't reach out to you again because we all agreed, you included, that I got this, but I'm struggling a little bit more than I would like to admit at the moment. Of course, you are so welcome. And I'm just going to jump ahead and say that this is so very normal and typical, nothing strange or unusual whatsoever. Last night was my second night falling asleep at 5 a.m. because of what seems like my anxiety being through the roof lately. I did manage, and I'm going to highlight some things that I think are important that we can come back to here. I did manage to get a good 3 hours of sleep, both last night and the night before. And what I think was 5 this morning, I was trying not to look at the clock, so that's a guesstimate. Let's highlight this one. Okay, however, what I did differently last night was read. I actually downloaded the Power of Now book you recommended, and with that, I was able to apply the being present with myself technique. I laid in bed unable to fall asleep, but every time my mind wandered, I would bring my attention back to my breath. That really did help because before I knew it, my alarm was going off. I do want to say that I did get a little frustrated earlier in the night and cried a little because with all that I know from your teachings, I should know better. And I know I said this in my last email, but I honestly, how I'm feeling, I'm thinking that's why this is a speed bump. It's stickier this time and a little harder because I'm going to highlight this as well. Because although I do practice self-compassion, I'm kind of a little frustrated with myself at the same time. Is this normal for your graduate students to feel? I'm thinking I'm overthinking everything, saying to myself, maybe I should apply this. No, maybe I should apply this method instead. So my brain ends up going into problem-solving mode, wanting to try different things, which ends up just becoming different efforts trying to be applied all at the same time, thus keeping me up. What would you say is the best way to get over a difficult speed bump for a graduate student with most of the knowledge and understanding? I know a speed bump can also be a process, a part of insomnia recovery. So when I tell myself that, it does bring me comfort. I know you say pretty much everyone experiences speed bumps. So with that, should I just take maybe 1 or 2 non-effort techniques that I know will work and that I enjoy and only stick to those? Let's highlight this. Question mark. I know not to place an acceptability threshold on it too, which can be really difficult, to be honest, but I know it's super helpful not to do that. I know I'll get through and over the speed bump, but the process of working through it is kicking my behind. Smiley, thank you as always, always, always. You're very, 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 very welcome, Sierra. And yeah, what I just said before, I'll just say that again, it's super normal and super common. And I think it's actually very important to do these open classes where I have questions from somebody who I've worked with to see that you can always message me and also that it is completely normal. It's completely typical. And I think there have been actually at least 4 or 5 specific episodes where I talked to somebody who's graduated and so forth. So let's go over the most important things. I think actually, before we get into kind of the details, let's take a step behind and look at the big picture here, which is the following: that there can be an extra level of pressure when you are someone who has, maybe you worked with me and you know a lot, you understand, you have a lot of insight, or you are someone who has a lot of insight about kind of the mind in general. Maybe you are a yoga instructor. Maybe you are a counselor, maybe you're a psychiatrist, maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're a nurse, something like that. And you feel like I should get this, somebody who's completely new to this, that's different, but I should get this. I should get this. That is just an extra layer of pressure that is so common and so natural. So I just want to say with that you can just really sort of just knowing that there's nothing strange about this, even if you understand sleep physiology, super well, you understand everything, and you still aren't sleeping well, or in this particular, you have this speed bump, completely normal. And sort of don't let this extra pressure keep you from sleeping well. There's nothing strange with that. But it's just good to know, good to understand that there can be this extra pressure coming from a place where you actually have a lot of understanding. So that's super normal. And I want to just point that one out. And the second one I want to point out is like the big picture is always of effort. It's like you say here, Sarah, that the more you try, the less you get. And the more you try to figure out what to do, the less you sleep. And it's kind of abandonment of that leads to good, I don't like to say the word good actually, but sleeping well and not having any struggle. And Bethel, by the way, I see this live comment, and I'm going to answer your live comment after we're gone through this message. So the first thing I wanted to point out here was like I highlighted this. I did manage to get a good 3 hours of sleep, both last night and the night before, at what I think was 5 a.m., trying my hardest not to look at the clock. So that's the guesstimate. Just the wording there. There are some words, there are some kind of like buzzwords that just sense off my spidey senses, my spidey efforts senses, that is, and one is manage. When someone is saying, I was able to, I managed, I pieced together, I made, like when I heard those words, I sense that somebody is trying to make sleep happen. And it can be really confusing, because if you have this kind of like, you're kind of anxious, you're a little bit stressed, and you're like, I'm going to do these breathing exercises, I'm going to meditate, and then like it takes a long time, but you did sleep 3 hours, and it feels like I was able to manage 3 hours. I didn't sleep that long, but I was able to manage a little bit, which is completely the other way around. Actually, you slept for whatever amount it was because you finally didn't try to manage. If you had tried to manage all night long, if you tried to manage, you wouldn't have slept at all. So at some point, you stopped trying to manage, and that's where sleep happened. But it can be really confusing when you try a lot and then you sleep. You think it's because I tried so much that at least I got a little bit of sleep, when it was actually the opposite. So this phrase here, I was at least, what was it? I did manage to get a good 3 hours of sleep. That shows us that there's kind of your pursuit of sleep happening. And also like 3 hours, I think it was around 5 o'clock. It is also signs of like trying to know what time it is, trying to have some control, which is the reason we have trouble sleeping. And second one, I downloaded the Power Now, and with that, I was able to apply the being present with myself technique. And this is a very the book, The Power Now, is I wouldn't say it's an easy read. It's a lot to digest. And if you pick it up and then you like, I read this and now I'm going to apply this, I think that's actually probably not really what the author is trying to convey, which is that there is no struggle. Like it's almost deeper than that. It's like he's like, there is only the now. The only thing that exists in the whole entire universe is the now. There's no past. There's no future. It's just we have dreams of the future, images of the past. And so I don't think there's any technique in there at all. And just actually the mere one mention of the word technique to me signals the same thing. When somebody is looking for a technique, it's similar to looking for a solution, looking for a trick, looking for a fix. And whenever you're looking for that, we're looking for a technique that will reduce our anxiety, a technique that will make us sleep, a technique that leads us towards more trying, effort, and struggle. I think it's a great book, though. It's not easily digested, but a good one. So I would say just read it without any intention, like without trying to achieve something. Just read it and see what you like, and that can be really, really helpful. And then the next thing I highlighted was like, with all I know from your teachings, I should know better. This is exactly what I talked about before. With I know so much, I should. That should, there is a great amount of self-criticism in should. There's a great amount of labeling and pressure in should. It's the same as the little word to, T-O-O. I am too tired versus I'm tired. I'm tired is just matter of factly, it's just a stating that I'm tired, or even like I'm super tired, I'm extremely tired. Well, I'm extremely maybe a bad example, but I'm really, really tired versus I'm too tired. The difference between them is I'm really, really tired. It calls for nothing. It calls for no figuring out, no, it's just a statement. I'm too tired. I'm TOO. I'm too tired, or I shouldn't be this tired. That calls for trying to figure out why you're so tired, trying to do something about it, etc., etc. So just actually, this just calls for self-kindness, knowing that I'm hard on myself when I say I should, or I'm too, and things of that nature. And Sierra has some great insight here. Although I do practice self-compassion, I'm kind of a little frustrated. So, and here's like, this could easily go to like, I'm still frustrated, even if I'm trying to be kind to myself. So why can't I even be kind to myself? You're kind of hard on yourself for being hard on yourself, which leads to like, that can really get you stuck, So just when you're frustrated, you can just be like, oh yeah, acknowledge that I'm frustrated, which is I am a little bit hard on myself. I'm expecting things from myself that is impossible for any human, but I don't have to be hard on myself for being frustrated. It's natural to be frustrated. It's natural to be hard on yourself. Sometimes we try as much as possible to be kind to ourselves, but sometimes we aren't, and that's okay too, And so that was that one. And I think, was there anything more? Oh yeah, this one. Should I just take maybe 1 to 2 non-effort techniques that I know will work? There we kind of have it again. It's like there's the insight that the more effort, the more struggle, but you're looking for a technique. You're looking for something that you know will work. Whenever you're looking for something that will work, then you'll have some more trouble. So I think the global thing here is that you have a lot of insight. You have all the knowledge you need. Now, for someone like Sierra here, it is really a path of just awareness. When you hear yourself go, this will work, or this didn't work. When you hear yourself go, I was able, I managed. When you hear yourself go, technique, then you just know that, this is a little bit of my old thought pattern popping up. This is a little bit of baiting from the brain. The brain kind of wants me to go down the rabbit hole again. And just being aware of that without any judgment, criticism, anything else, that leads towards a place of like where you're liberated from the whole struggle. And the more of these kind of speed bumps you have, the sooner you will actually get to where you want to be. Because from every speed bump, you get past it because you didn't do anything, you responded a little, it'll get easier and easier. So Sierra, hope that made sense. Let us know how things go. And thanks so much for all the support. Okay, Betel here has a live question. Hello, I've been experiencing shallow sleep for almost 2 weeks now. I sleep, quote unquote, for 7 hours, but wake up feeling like I didn't get any deep sleep at all. What should I do? Actually, I think it may really help you to look at our previous open class 93, where we talked about this in some detail. But the thing is that, when you judge how you feel, when you judge your sleep based on how you feel during the day, things can get a little tricky, because you can feel like I slept this amount of time, but I don't feel refreshed. Therefore, there must be a problem with my sleep. My sleep must be too shallow. There must be something wrong with it. And that leads towards a path of like trying to fix your sleep. I need to have better quality sleep. I need to have deeper sleep. I need to do something to sleep better. Maybe I should have try to get more deep sleep or REM sleep. Maybe I should use a weighted blanket. Maybe I should do this, maybe that. And all of that leads to more preoccupation with sleep and attention towards sleep. And sleep thrives like a succulent on no attention whatsoever. It's not a bonsai tree that needs like all this, like a bonsai tree for sleep is like really not helpful at all. That leads to so much trouble sleeping. So you want the succulent approach. And so when you think there's something wrong with your sleep that makes you feel not refreshed during the day, that so easily takes you towards bonsai, like trying to fix it and tweak it and perfect it. And when you do that, you have some more struggle with sleep, and then you feel less refreshed again, and then leads to more tinkering and etc. So I think always talk to your doctor, of course, when you're concerned about your health. But I think a key thing is kind of like separating those things, separating how you feel during the day from sleep. That leads to like no tinkering with sleep, which is great for sleep. And then you can figure out why you feel not so refreshed. Maybe you were a little bit anxious. Maybe you're anxious about your sleep and you actually didn't sleep so well, and that's why you feel not refreshed. And then the key, of course, becomes letting go of that, like trying less to fix your sleep, and then the anxiety will go away and you feel more refreshed. Or maybe you don't feel refreshed because of something else, something on your mind, something you're thinking about, something you're worried about, something completely different. And then you can see what that is and see if that needs any attention or not. But separating the two is often really, really helpful, because even if you have like insomnia, like even with insomnia, it's not that you sleep X amount of time or that you have X amount of REM sleep or deep sleep that causes you to feel tired during the day or not refreshed. It is the struggle. It's all this mental energy spent trying to figure out why you don't sleep, trying this, trying that, evaluating how it works, being frustrated when it doesn't work, which it cannot do it itself, being hard on yourself, criticizing yourself. That's where the fatigue comes from, or the sense of not being refreshed. So, Beryl, I hope that was helpful to you and anyone else that tunes in. And with that said, let us continue to our next question or next message from Davy. Hi, Daniel. First of all, I'm so thankful that I found your channel, because it has definitely made me feel like I'm not alone in my struggle with insomnia, anxiety, and depression. I'm so glad to read this, Davy. That's maybe the most important function of this channel, is just so everyone knows nothing strange or unusual going on. You are not alone. I'm writing you to share what I've been going through since the end of November 2020. This might be a long read, LOL. I've always dealt with anxiety my whole life and would have bouts of sleepless nights, but would not really care about it before November 2020. During that time, I was grieving my mother's death. I was attending school for a master's degree, teaching credentialed student teaching high school, and working part-time. As you can tell, I was under a lot of stress. So what I did to deal with that stress and to get my work done was to take Adderall once a week. It helped me shut up my anxiety and helped me focus on my schoolwork. I have taken it before and it has never really affected my sleep, but this time around it did. At the end of November, I had taken a pill and I did not sleep at all that night. Then I thought to myself, I'll sleep the next night, but I didn't. It put me in a panic, and although I was all I thought about was trying to get some sleep. That whole week, my anxiety and panic attacks were their all-time high, and maybe I got a total of 6 hours of sleep the whole week. There were times when I was convulsing on the floor, crying with fear and anxiety. That whole month of December was definitely the darkest time of my life. I seriously thought about ending my life because I couldn't get any sleep. Eventually received help from a psychologist, and he prescribed me Lexapro, and I've been on it since January. And it's helped a little bit, and I also attend therapy once a week. Now I still deal with sleep anxiety every day. Even if I get some sleep the next night before, it's still a struggle for me to fall asleep every night because of my anxiety and my fear of wakefulness, but I eventually fall asleep. But what I struggle with the most is the anxiety that I have throughout the day. My mind is consumed by thoughts of sleep, and I get flashbacks of my dark times I had in December. My brain is so fearful to go back to that state. I've tried everything to get myself to regular sleep, but it doesn't work. Actually, let's highlight this one. It's an important one. Recently, from what I learned from your channel, especially two of you with Michelle, that's helped a lot. So I've been trying to befriend my general anxiety and my sleep anxiety. Even named it Theodora to personalize it. I talk to her and write to her every day, trying to calm her down and not push her away. But I still go to bed. Here it is. But I still go to bed every night with a sense of anxiety. My heart races and my mind is flooded with fear that I won't be able to fall asleep. It has taken control over my life. I even took time off from school and work to deal with this issue. Please help. So this was Davy. So Davy, I'm going to say she because you said, thanks, you're the best. My sister says hi. Anytime. Thanks so much for sharing it, for the kind words there. Okay, Davy. So the first thing I want to say here is, again, nothing here is medical advice. I'm glad you have, people you're working with, your psychologist and the prescriber as well. Now, here's the thing. When things happen, it can be a little tricky to see what was the reason for what. And so in November, there was a really difficult time. Your mom had passed away. That alone is really, really, that's huge. If somebody said my mom passed away and I slept really well, that would have been a little unusual or like a little odd. Maybe you sleep a lot, but not necessarily well. Like it's completely expected that we don't sleep well when something like that happens. But then it can be a little confusing when you've taken this medication for a long time and then you don't sleep at all, and then your brain goes like, "What? Why didn't I sleep? That was odd." And it goes, "Aha! It's of course because of the medication," which is very attractive to the brain, because if it's as simple as that, if it's as simple as the medication made me not sleep, then it's kind of like you have control. You can be like, I can half of it, or I can not take it, I can change it, and then I'll sleep again. So it's a very attractive thought for the brain to have like, this caused me not to sleep. But in reality, a lot of things can affect your sleep, but the only thing that causes the struggle with sleep that we call insomnia is the fear of being awake. So although anything can kind of like, impact your sleep, the real reason you continue to struggle is that you have a fear of being awake. And when you think that it has to do with a medication, it can be really confusing, because it won't allow you to see clearly that the only thing that really leads towards sleeping well is going the path of education and courage, and teaching the brain that it has nothing to fear. And you've done that here on the channel, which is amazing. But so that was the first thing I want to point out. And then the second thing was, let's see what I highlighted here. I highlighted where it said, I've tried everything to get myself to regular sleep, but it doesn't work. That is one of the most common things you hear. So in a nutshell here, like when the brain is a problem solving and a safety machine, is there to keep us alive and safe. And when there is a tangible threat to our health and well-being, like we're being attacked by a rhinoceros, we're supposed to feel fear, hide, and that thing doesn't see us, let's say, and we're safe. That's perfect. But the brain can get confused and think that being awake is a threat, like a rhinoceros, and then it tries to make us safe by making us hide or fight back or something like that. And then when you go towards in that direction and you're kind of trying to make yourself sleep and get away from the threat and things like that, then you're teaching the brain that there is a threat, because you're trying to avoid it. You're trying to keep away from the threat. You're trying maybe like meditation, you're trying breathing exercises, you're trying yoga, you're trying positive thinking, you're trying affirmations, you're trying like, supplements, and all those things are the things that maintain the idea that there is a threat. So it is not at all surprising to hear, I've tried everything to get myself to regular sleep, but it doesn't work. In fact, it is trying everything that is the reason sleep doesn't happen regularly. So that was a really important one. And I think, Dave says she's learned a lot and she's trying to befriend. I mean, this is exactly the point. She's trying to kind of befriend anxiety and sleep anxiety and sit with it and not make it go away, even naming it Theodora. And here's the thing. But I still go to bed every night. That is like that's another thing that kind of triggers my spidey senses. But I still. When you hear "but I still," that means that befriending wakefulness or befriending anxiety became a means of trying to escape. When someone says, I try to befriend wakefulness, but I still am awake at night, that means that person was sort of trying to befriend wakefulness so that they would have less wakefulness. It's kind of like saying, like, I have this person that I don't like, so I'm trying to befriend them so that they get away. If you're trying to befriend someone and you're still upset that they're there, then you're not really trying to befriend them, right? It's kind of like, it's just a trick, right? So I think just seeing this is so important. When you hear, but I still, or it didn't work, that means your intent is still to try to escape. And that doesn't need to lead to any form of effort. It's just like being aware of that, seeing that, I'm still trying to escape. That naturally leads you in a very nice direction. And then I even took time off from school and work to deal with this issue, which is completely understandable. These are not easy things. I see Sierra is here and Jake is here as well. So I'll get to the live questions in a second. Just kind of like the final words here for Davy is, it's completely understandable that you would take some time off to deal with it. And when you've done so, you should be kind to yourself, because you did that from a place of self-love and self-preservation. Generally speaking, though, it's like the more you sort of accommodate the trouble sleeping, for example, the more you do things like, I'm not going to go to work so that I can focus on my sleep and get my sleep in the right place, it tends to sort of not help actually. And you just pay more attention to your sleep and you try even more. And it can be helpful to, as much as possible, be like, okay, I didn't sleep much, but I'm still gonna do what I normally do during my day. And that can really help. But anyway, I hope this helped, Davy, and be in touch and let us know how things go. Cool. All right. So with that said, Sierra says, hi, Coach Daniel. Hi. I tuned in late, so I didn't hear your response to my submission, but I had a type of epiphany last night. The path of acceptance is hard, but that's the direction I know I have to take. Not sure that's something you can do for me. It's definitely something I have to do. Well, you've already done it. Like, it's like often people are like saying, for example, I know I have to befriend wakefulness. Well, when you see that befriending wakefulness is kind of the path, if you will, you're already on it. You've already started it. And when you see like, I know I should be more accepting, I know acceptance is the way, that's it. You're already accepting, kind of like you're already doing it. So that's fantastic. But do tune into the early part of this episode, because I hope it'll help. And it's kind of the same thing you're saying, but in with some more context. So Sierra, you're doing really, really well. Jake says, hi Dan, quick question. Is it ever acceptable to use alcohol for its sedating effects if it's used in moderation? Not that I have a problem sleeping. I'm asking out of curiosity. I think this is kind of my favorite example when it comes to effort, which is, so the way I teach this is, imagine someone who happens to enjoy a glass of wine with dinner, and they have a glass of wine just because they like that with the dinner, and it's just something they like to do, and they happen to be a little sedated by that, and they feel good and they sleep well or something like that. There's no problem whatsoever. They're just enjoying life. But everything changes if the intent is, okay, I think I'm going to sleep a little bit more if I have a little glass of wine. You can see how that's a slippery slope, because that leads towards, I didn't sleep well, I think I need a little more. That is a very slippery slope. So it's all about intent. And sometimes you just have to be honest with yourself, like, is there any intent? Am I trying to escape being anxious? Am I trying to escape being awake? Am I trying to escape any type of negative emotion? Probably not helpful to have any alcohol, but I'm just enjoying my life and I like this. And I have no thoughts whatsoever on how it's going to affect my emotions. Either way, I'm not trying to be happy or trying to escape anything like being sad or anything like that. Totally fine. All right, Jake, I hope that helped. And okay, so we'll go to Robin here. Robin says, let me share the screen. Hi, Daniel. I'm wondering what your qualifications are. Do you have any degrees in specialized training? That's it's a hard one to answer. It's kind of like a yes and no there. My background is I'm a physician, and I'm a sleep physician. I'm boarded in sleep medicine. And that's how it started for me. That's why my interest in insomnia came, because I saw that it was so common. But what I learned in fellowship, I'm so grateful that I learned a little bit about insomnia, or cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. But what I learned, I have realized with time, actually was not very helpful. So I want to say what I teach here is, it came from CBTI, which it was trained in, but it evolved to much more of like, I think of what I teach here as kind of these universal truths that you find in the practice of meditation, in yoga, and not just the poses, not just the asanas, the whole philosophy of yoga, which includes meditation or Zen Buddhism or Stoicism maybe, or like all kinds of these type of teachings that have been with us for thousands of years. It's just really applying those to sleep. That's sort of what I teach. So I think I think anyone who would have started to explore this would have reached where I am. So I don't think my background has anything to do with what I teach today. And so I consider myself a coach. I'm a sleep coach, and I have I teach other coaches, but I'm sort of a self-described coach, and I teach other coaches, but that's a little bit about my background there. All right, hope that helped, Robin. So And any more questions, please let us know. So Rover says, hi, I've been struggling with insomnia for over a year. My question is about circadian rhythm. Probably a silly question, but is it real? I think it's a great question, actually. Sleep drive for me is always during the day. That's when I'm incredibly groggy and fight tiredness all during sunlight hours. Yet as soon as the sun sets and darkness comes, I feel so awake, ready to take on the night. Should I attempt sleeping in the day? My fear is that I'll worry about my small business being closed and won't sleep in the day either. But no matter how stressed and worried I am in the daytime, I still feel that extreme sleep drive. At night, I'll relax. And literally as soon as the sun sets, my energy comes back and wakefulness sets in. Is this circadian rhythm? If so, why would this happen and not change back to night? Please know that I've never worked nights. Same schedule the last 15 years. Thanks for your help. Love your channel. Thank you so much for the support there. And I will say the following. I think circadian rhythm is real. If you fly like from, I don't know, Scotland to like New Zealand or something like that, you will experience circadian rhythm. You will experience how your kind of body clock is set for a certain time, and then you find yourself in a completely different time zone. It can be quite unpleasant. So it is real. And why do we have a circadian rhythm at all? Well, you know, when we are awake, let's say we wake up in the morning and we stay awake until the evening, then if that was the only thing, if sleep drive was the only thing determining how we feel during the day, we would feel really, really tired and sleepy in the evening and feel really refreshed in the morning. But that's not how we feel. It is actually, you know, most people, when you, let's say somebody who doesn't struggle with sleep or insomnia or anything like that, will feel, generally speaking, pretty okay in the morning, pretty okay at noon, and actually pretty alert. Most people can be pretty productive as late as 9 or 10 p.m. And so how is that possible if sleep drive is kind of like your need for sleep, your body's need for sleep, that homeostatic drive was the only thing determining how you feel during the day? Well, that's not the case. So there's this other thing called the circadian rhythm, which kind of counteracts the sleep drive and produces some alerting hormones starting in the morning and more throughout the night, so you can function well even to late night. And then it's kind of withdrawing these hormones in the evening, and then you often pretty suddenly feel sleepy. So why isn't that happening in Rover's case? Well, what you describe is actually super common. And I think what we can talk about here is the Houdini effect, because that kind of explains everything. So the Houdini effect is when you are feeling actually really sleepy. You may even have a hard time keeping your eyelids open. You're like just nodding off. But the moment you lay your head on the pillow, ding, you feel wide awake. How is that even possible? Well, to understand that, we have to understand a little bit of how the mind works. Well, the brain is a safety machine. So imagine if you were about to fall asleep and you have this thought, oh my gosh, I left the oven on. The oven is on and it can set the house on fire. Then of course you want to be wide awake, and that's the brain does. When it's afraid of something, when there's a fear, ding, then it becomes wide awake, right? And this can seem really bizarre, because the moment you want to sleep, then it becomes wide awake. But that is it. So why do we have this phenomenon when you've had trouble sleeping? Well, it is because the brain has started to think that being awake is a threat, a problem, like an oven being on. And when the brain is afraid that you will be awake at night, it makes you awake. You know, it's so twisted in a way like that. But because the brain is afraid of being awake, it puts you in a state where you can kind of be ready to respond, which is being awake, right? So that's why you often you feel very alert at night, hyper alert, hyper vigilant. You have very superficial sleep, if any. But then when the fear of being awake is no longer there, so that's often when the sun comes up and like you're supposed to start your day, then there's no more fear of being awake, because you're quote unquote supposed to be awake during the day. And then you feel really tired and sleepy. You may even struggle to keep your eyes open. Now, so what would happen if you said, I'm just gonna sleep during the day and then be awake at night? Well, probably the same thing would happen, because then the fear would be, what if I can't sleep during the day? And and what will I do at night? So there will be other fears that drive it. So I don't think that's a solution for anyone, really. So I think the solution is just learning and education. And when the brain starts to see that there's nothing to be afraid of, wakefulness can actually not harm you, then even when you go to bed and you're sleepy and you think, what if I'm awake at night? Then you kind of like naturally respond, well, that's okay. Being awake is all right. And then you can easily fall asleep. So teaching the brain that there's nothing to fear is the way. All right. So hope this helped. Thanks everyone for all your support, the comments, and everything else. And if you like the teaching here, but you would like some more support and guidance on your path to having no struggle whatsoever, then head over to thesleepcoachschool.com and see how you can work with myself and how you can learn. And let's see. Sarah actually has one more comment. Right, I'm learning acceptance is the hardest part. But again, a part of the journey. I know I'll be okay. I'm also going to do a sleep detox. I know this will help as well. Absolutely. Acceptance is tricky because it goes against our natural, the natural way we think, which is kind of problem solving and fixing. But when you see the magic of it, when you see the magic of not trying to control anything, it actually becomes very easy. It actually becomes easy. It's kind of paradoxical because you sort of have to exert a little bit of effort to let go. But once you've done that, then there's no effort. And it actually becomes very easy once you've seen the magic there. So it sounds really good, Sarah. And I'm always here. And for anyone else there, leave comments on the channel, send comments on the website, and we'll go from there. All right, everyone. Super nice being here again, and I'll be back with more